Hello everybody. We at Proshare Nigeria have just concluded an analyst report on NAHCO. So we'd like to discuss some of the issues relating to the sector as well as the report what we have concluded on. We have Mr. Femi Awoyemi, CEO of Proshare, and would like to discuss some of the challenges faced by the sector. Hello sir, how are you?
Thank you, Rashid.
So what do you think about NAHCO overall, and what are the challenges faced by the sector as per the company? What are the challenges faced by the company?
NAHCO operates in the airline sector, should I call airline subsector, which is basically the service end of the aviation industry, which is a relatively small market, very restricted market with little opportunities for growth. But basically, the service is divided into wrap businesses, cargo handling, and other passenger services. The market has always had two dominant players, NAHCO and SACO, for some time, with about 75 or 80% to 20% market share. However, following last year, the market appears to be changing. And what you begin to see is what we expect anyway, is to see what kind of reaction comes from those companies in anticipation of those changes which we see, some of which are articulated in our analyst report, which is available now, I believe.
But what are the challenges faced by the sector? If you look at the global economy, there are challenges faced by the global economy in the sector. So what are the business plans they are focusing on to overcome those challenges?
Well, it depends on each individual company. When we did the review of NAHCO, what we felt was that this was a very restricted market with little opportunities for growth. The business model before was to grow market share within a restricted market space. The business is not expanding because the larger industry, which is the passenger and the cargo business, are basically contracting. The best year ever was in 2007, I believe. It was in 2007 when the airline industry for the first time achieved a global profit of about 5.6 billion. The last time we ever had profit in the aviation industry globally was in 2000. We are looking at the 7-year gap, and this was basically driven by exchange rate, oil prices, cost of oil and operation. Since 2008, and you could see recently, BS having problem with staff, Air France, and a few other organizations, which affects it. But what has happened in Nigeria significantly is that we seem to have achieved a threshold, a floor by which businesses can be conducted. That means that people will still travel as to X amount. People will still move cargoes based on their commerce needs for X amount. And that minimum threshold is sufficient enough to have NAHCO and SACO deliver profits. Now what you expect to see is that there are some discerning trends. Passenger service issues are coming up, some other issues in terms of airline competitors. SACO now will be privatized, will be bigger. Swissport is trying to come in. I believe they do have a license. You could see a possible merger between Swissport and SACO, though it looks unlikely at this point in time. But for any other person to threaten NAHCO at this time, we need them another 1 year or 2 years to put the infrastructure in place. By which time we expect, given what we see of this management, being able to, and the board, to put in place plans to expand the market as a whole. The key, therefore, is that we cannot play in the same market anymore. We got to expand the market. He who is able to come up with a plan and business strategy to expand the market will surely be the winner in the market. Don't forget, this is a cash cow industry. This business generates good cash flows.
But we have been reading news, and as what you have said on SACO, privatization, new companies, global players coming up in the market. What do you think about the profit margins of the company? Will it contract or will they continue to be the same?
There are two issues here. One, in this particular industry, some of the contract pricing, for example, the ground handling business or the total ground handling component of the business, most of the prices are either denominated in dollars. Fortunately for NAHCO, I believe most of his deep contracts in 2008, 2009 were denominated in Naira. So he begins to have some stability in terms of his revenue streams there. In terms of the margin, what will happen is as airlines begin to have more problems in terms of their margin, they cannot transfer the cost entirely to the customers. So the areas where we receive punishment is those companies that are outsourced firms, people like NAHCO, SACOL, and the rest. Now, what will happen is they can only restrict it to such an extent. So where you have a drop in terms of activity margins, you may overall have an expansion in terms of the volume of businesses. And that is what makes the imperative for them to develop new streams of income to augment the drop in margin. But don't forget, if you look at the statistics of the turnover for NAHCO, they've been having incredible gross margins. Almost unbelievable gross margins.
And I think this is one company where all the profit margins of majority of the companies in this kind of status in the economy, they have been reduced, but the profit margins of NAHCO has increased.
Incredibly. We are expecting that if you take a look at what they are planning to do, this company is growing in terms of margins. It's 2007, it's growing in terms of margin. Profit after tax to revenue moved from 16 to 18, and we should expect it, if we extrapolate to 2019, about 26%. It's having an increased profit after tax to revenue, but in terms of its own contribution also, it's also been increasing. So it's a business that is founded around an essential service. You would call it an essential service.
But what I think in terms of operational efficiency, companies like in this kind of sector, they have operational challenges, maybe in terms of their operational costs. They have handled very well their operational costs. But what about the operational efficiency or the cash flows from operations?
In terms of the cash flow, like I said, this is one company with a huge cash flow. It has less borrowings. The real major challenge for it is that it is a capital-intensive industry, wherein you are dealing with two separate issues: asset replacement, which will be a contingent on foreign exchange as well, and secondly, the huge depreciation of those equipment because of the efficiency of time. The equipment won't last 20 years; they're very short term, so they're generating huge cash to invest back in. I think the real question is to ask, what level of planning for growth in terms of capital expenditure are these companies doing? It is only when we do see that we begin to understand, because don't forget that NAHCO came in from a privatization and it's had those assets in place. Now it has to, it's made profits in 2007, 2008. Getting to 2009, 2010, it has to take decisions in terms of replacing those assets of old that it had into this one. And that's when I look at the cash flow, which the net cash flows is generating. I think that they are in a position to do so. Don't forget, given its generous cash flow, it's also in a position to take some leasing equipment. I would consider such a company a viable one for a bank. I'll call it a bankable project at this time, but that is subject to certain issues. In the years 2007, NAHCO experienced one of the most severe industrial challenges. Its ability to turn the corner on its change management program, its ability for its board to make substantial investments in capital assets, those are the key issues now, coupled with the fact that they must therefore change the business model. And if they are able to do that, we are in a position to do so. This company has spent huge sums of money on training, investing in ICT. It has been one of the success stories in terms of turnaround, getting into becoming a PLC.
Like Q1 result was highly impressive. Their turnover was 1.4 billion, profit after tax was 419 million. So what do you think, what is your outlook for Q3 and for the year?
If you extrapolate, you would expect it to maintain the same level. It will probably hit projections. But I'm thinking that they must stop here and they must make some very hard decisions. They must take decisions in terms of the capital expenditure they need to invest in, and make decisions as to whether they spend their own cash or they take borrowings in there. Second, they must take decisions concerning the new businesses they need to go into. They must also take strong decisions concerning what competition is doing. There are therefore opportunities for mergers or leveraging that is available. So whether they want to declare profit or they want to invest for growth, those are the core decisions they need to take. So I would be less concerned in terms of their turnover of the result, which they could explain to their shareholders. But if they don't take those decisions, they only elongate the time it takes for them to go